Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dr. Shazette. I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Friday to you. If you've been watching my shorts or following on any of my social platforms, you probably know that I have been in New Orleans this week. I'm actually still here. Excuse the mess that you might see in the background. It's almost checkout time in my hotel. I am so ready to get home. Like I've been counting down the minutes and the hours until checkout time and time to head to the airport today and probably the last couple of days, which is kind of what I want to talk about today. As I have been and continue in this season of really self-examination and self-reflection, as I am striving to live the well life, and that is to get to a place of absolute wholeness in my own self, knowing that it's a process, knowing that it will take time, but also not rushing myself through it. I've also been really intentional this last few months about cultivating the spaces where I find myself, and really protecting my sense of well-being, protecting my sense of settledness, my sense of peace. And I do that by curating the environments and the spaces where I find myself. When I was essentially encouraged to come to this conference, I really felt an uneasiness in my spirit, but I also felt like it was something that I kind of had to do or needed to do for my job because it had been mentioned a couple of times. And so I overrode what I heard in my spirit and came anyway, so that hoping that it would cause me to be seen as a team player, and also believing that perhaps there was something that I would take away that would help me to do my day job better, or at least position me to do it better. But when I got here, I realized almost immediately that it wasn't going to be a good or healthy space for me, not necessarily because of the content of the conference, but again, I've been really intentional this last few months about pulling back and really sitting with only myself and or those who are closest to me, and really kind of my biological family, right? My husband, my son, and then my parents and my siblings. I've worked really hard, right? And then my faith and worship community. I've worked really hard in cultivating kind of that rhythm for myself, as a means of safekeeping, right? I acknowledge that in this season, as I'm processing through a lot of things, as I am have opened myself up to kind of this cleansing and this being made whole. You know, Jesus asks in Scripture of the woman, wilt thou be made whole? And the answer for me is yes, but that also requires a measure of openness and a measure of vulnerability that is not necessarily safe in every place, in every environment. And so within the first few hours of being here, I knew that I had not chosen wisely, but that I had gotten myself into something that I was going to have to kind of push through and endure through. And the first day, it was just a lot of noise. It was a lot of people, a lot of energy expended, trying to find a place to fit, trying to get to know new people, trying to honor whatever responsibilities that I had, right, in the space. But also knowing that immediately, like my senses and my spirit and my spiritual ears, I was overwhelmed, right, on the very first day within a few hours. By the next day, my physical body started responding in that I wasn't able to keep food down, or keep food in, I should say. And so I pressed through, right, days 1, 2, and 3, feeling increasingly overwhelmed and unsettled and kind of thrown off balance, strictly and solely because of my environment. And so I tried, I think on day 3, I began to kind of slow down a little bit and began to try and pick and choose opportunities or take advantage of opportunities that were far and few between to just kind of pull away, right? To go and take a walk outside, to go allow my body to be warmed in the sunshine, to try and give my sensory self and every other part of me some much needed breaks and opportunities to reset, because many reset moments were needed. And I was trying also to still look, because there were other people there, I think, that felt equally as overstimulated and overwhelmed as we were beginning to have conversations with each other. And so today I just want to encourage you to do better than I did in that regard, and to give yourself permission to say, no, I can't go into this space, or I don't need to be in this environment in this particular season, not because the environment is innately bad or wrong, but because sometimes, depending on the places where our spirits are, depending on the places where our souls find themselves situated, that we have to protect our peace and our well-being by being really careful about the environment and the spaces that we put ourselves in. And yes, I absolutely know and believe that we have authority, right? Spiritual authority over places and spaces and environments. But there are also seasons and times when we should just do our best to protect, right, our peace and to protect our well-being by choosing not to enter into spaces, by choosing not to go into places, or choosing to walk away from spaces and places perhaps that we've occupied in times past. And so one of the things that I really love, and I'm looking forward to getting going home, right? I want to encourage us, like, the one place that should definitely be a safe haven for us in as much as it's possible is our homes, right? And how do we cultivate, spaces for our homes? We make them, we used to say, talk about turning houses into homes, right? Making a place home. And we do this through the cultivation of our space, right? We do it through our decor. We do it through the smells and the fragrances in our homes. We do it through how we keep our homes clean or organized. We do it through setting rhythms and routines that are germane to our homes, that are unique to our homes. And so, and perhaps you live in a place where you don't have full control over all of these things, but I hope that you can at least find a small space, even if it's just like a tabletop or a corner in a closet, that you can cultivate a restroom, a bathroom, right? That you can cultivate a space that is life-giving to you, where you can go in and shut the door, or you can find, right, a place where you can sit down and be at peace and be settled and know that you are safe, and know that this is a place where you can be open and where you can be vulnerable and where you can focus on you, your health, and your well-being. And then when we travel, like, how do we, to places, when we decide to travel, on the front end of it is to be wise about the places that you grace with your presence, right? The places where you go. Is this a place where I should be? Is this a place where I can be? Is this a place that is going to take away from me, or is this a place that is going to give to me? Is this a place that needs my energy, that I'm being called to pour into, right, in this season? And so, you have to ask yourselves a lot of questions, or we have to ask ourselves a lot of questions, because the day and time of haphazardly entering into spaces that are not good for us, or that we are not good for, like those days, at least for me, right, are coming or have come swiftly to an end. And I learned a hard lesson this week, being here for 5 days. And I've stopped short of saying that it's been miserable, because I have found some opportunities in some places to just go and give myself some relief, but it has not been overall an enjoyable experience for me. But I also want to share, like, so what do you do, though, when you find yourself in a space or place that you should not have come into, or that for whatever reason you have to be in, or believe that you have to be in, and that you don't really have a lot of control? And so one of the things that I did my very first day here, when I realized, right, even at the airport, that I don't want to go, is I went and I found a couple of places where I could pick up some familiar incense. because I was out of my little incense cones at home, and I didn't grab my little incense burner bowl thing, and so I found a store here, a botanical store here, and they had my familiar incense fragrance and a really cool little wooden incense burner. Kind of coaster bowl thing. And so I got that. And as soon as I got to my hotel, I lit the familiar incense to kind of feel like I was being encompassed with my home environment, and as opposed to the air conditioning, even though it was really warm outside, as opposed to running the air conditioning on cold, I actually warmed the room up to about 75, and allowed for my body to feel the warmth, And I don't know necessarily the full reason. I don't have a full understanding of it, but my body, whereas I've always been hot natured and prefer to be cold, my body these days is asking for more warmth. And I'm not miserably or painfully cold. It's just that my body is craving warmth. And so even when I get into my car, I'm turning the seat warmers on, even though it's full summer outside. But it's just comforting. Like I feel like a deep warmth all the way through my body. So, cultivating, environment in a place where I don't care to be or a place where I shouldn't be, cultivating an environment, setting some routines, right? Even here for myself, that I've set for each morning. I laid out in the bathroom, my toiletries in a neat way. And I set a routine for myself of getting up in the morning and getting myself cleaned up and moisturizing my body, and just taking my time and setting a rhythm that was more self-care, right, than it was familiar, but also trying to give myself space to prep myself for having to be out in what I was calling an extrovert's paradise. And so I also finally, on day 4, which was yesterday, after I pressed through days 1 and 2 and pressed through really hard day 3, I finally sent a text message to my colleagues and said, listen, my physical body is not feeling well at all. And it wasn't like I hadn't been able to keep any food in for the better part at that point of almost 72 hours. And I said, guys, I just need to honor my body today. And their responses were overwhelmingly beautiful. They were glad I was taking care of myself. Please let us know if you need anything. And for me, that was another learning lesson. Like I had pressed through, and we press through because we're not certain of others' expectations or how other people will respond. But they responded with, at least in the text messages, they responded with absolute grace. And so I will believe that is how they actually felt. They responded with absolute grace and understanding, and telling me that they were glad I was taking the time to honor my body and taking care of myself. And so I want to encourage us, which I'm, again, still learning, right? Encourage you to be unapologetic in saying, no, this space isn't for me, or no, I can't go. Don't feel like you have to apologize for saying no to going into a place and space that is not for you in a particular season. I am so ready to go home that I could cry right now. My entire being, my entire body is longing to be home. My soul is longing to be home with my husband and with my son and with the 2 dogs, and to go out in my backyard and to smell the herbs that are growing and to walk in my neighborhood. Like, my soul is ready to be home. And if I had had the courage to exercise my authority, the authority of my wisdom, the authority of the Spirit that, Holy Spirit that is at work within me, and simply said no several months ago when I was encouraged to come on this trip, then the suffering of this week very likely would not have been, when I say suffering, suffering is kind of overkill in many ways. I know that others are suffering in many other ways. I'm sitting in a hotel room, right? So certainly not suffering without anything over my head. I've had the ability to eat and drink, so certainly not suffering in that regard. But I could have, if I had exercised that authority and wisdom and heeded the voice of Holy Spirit all those months ago, I would not have found myself, right, in this very unenjoyable almost miserable experience that I've had for the last 5 days. And as an introvert, a natural introvert, I very rarely find myself being or feeling lonely. But I have felt so incredibly lonely this week. And I don't know that it's an unfamiliar feeling. I can't say that because I'm able to name it. So I must have some familiarity with it. But to be able to name it and to know that that's what it is, that's been really hard for me this week. Because again, I don't know myself to experience loneliness on a regular basis, historically, or maybe I have, I don't know, but I've been able to feel it and to name it and um, to know what it is this week. And I've said it to my husband. I just feel really lonely this week, and that's been not such a good feeling. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's been a really hard feeling for me this week. So I'm excited to go home. I'm ready to go home. It's raining outside right now. In New Orleans, the weather here is so interesting. It's so cool. Sometimes you can hear the thunder, and it rumbles like really, really like low, deep thunder, but there's no rain. And I don't know. There's been something kind of prophetic and spiritual about that for me as well. I got a chance to see some interesting places here. Um, while I was here, I walked around on Magazine Street yesterday. I was going to find something to put in my stomach, and so I went out to walk and get some air and get some hydration and get some healthy food in my body. And so I did that on Magazine Street, which isn't far from here. And it gave me what I needed to get through the rest of this trip. So, anyway, I just wanted to encourage you guys, without a grand script, to be unapologetic in protecting your space and protecting your environment, and be okay with the fact that spaces and environments that we might typically be able to occupy or navigate well, that there are seasons in our lives when those environments and those spaces are no longer for us or do not foster or encourage our well-being. So, and that's okay. It's a part of growing. It's a part of becoming, I think. Um, and it's a part of processing through. It's a part of healing for me. Of not feeling like I have to be in a place, not feeling like I have to do a thing, not feeling like I have to show up for anybody else other than myself and my loved ones, right? My natural family and those whom I've adopted as family, my chosen family as well. Um, so yeah. Anyway, I hope that you guys have an amazing weekend. I may do a couple of shorts tomorrow, just being home. Um, Thinking about going to a Caribbean festival event at our local library. But I'm also thinking about just comforting myself and being in my own bed and hanging out with my guys. So, at any rate, I wish you guys the best. I pray that you have an amazing day. I pray that you have an amazing weekend. And I pray that you'll continue to choose you and your well being as we seek together to live the well life. I love y'all. We'll holler back now.